Okay, everybody, we're going to show you some of the basics of setting up the print job that you want to print for their dye sublimation printer here at East High. So I'm going to use Photoshop. It's probably the most powerful tool we can use that will give us the detail that we need. Now, if you're not a Photoshop pro, that's okay. You can make your images anywhere. I am just showing you where I would go once I'm ready to get started with the printing. So we're going to start with a new file. One of the first things that we need to do is just set up the size of our printing. And that printing really is based on how big of a project you need. So our Epson 570 printer has a 24-inch roll, and we can print from there, or we can print from a much smaller piece of paper and save some of the work. So I'm just going to start with something really basic. I'm going to use an 8.5. And notice I'm going to change this to pixels. So 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Now we can't just use any paper. We've got to use our printer paper for transfer ink, but you'll figure that out as you get into the printer part itself. One of the things you'll want to adjust is the color mode, and that is we use a CMYK because we're actually printing this. And the colors that are in your printer are the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So those are the colors of the ink. So you want to set it up for that. And then our color profile. So color profiles can be a little bit difficult to figure out as you're getting used to it. And we'll hit that on the other side. So for now, we'll just leave it as it is set and hit create. Okay, so there's my 8.5 by 11. Now I am going to bring a standard picture in here. So I've got this picture that I grabbed from the internet, and I am going to drag that onto my artboard here. And let's get that to the right size. So let's imagine that I am printing on a particular piece that is going to be, let's just say, 3 inches wide by 4 inches high. I want to be just a little bit bigger than my substrate or what I'm pressing onto. And that means the edges are going to hang off just a little bit, but that's ideal because then we won't have any white images around the outside or white envelope around the outside. And I'm just going to put that here, and I'll hit return. So now that's a part of my document here. The nice thing is if you're doing multiple items, you can repeat that. So we're just going to duplicate that layer and move him over. And so we can get a couple of these done right away. I'll use those for now. And we're ready to print. So I've got my print job set up. Always recommend you fill as much of the paper as you can. So if you've got multiple files you can bring in and print at the same time, that would be good just to eliminate waste. We're ready to print. So I am going to click print. And the first thing that you want to make sure is that you have the Epson SC-F570 series. Now, this printer prints by being plugged directly into the computer. So you'll have to use a computer that is plugged directly into it. And we're going to go into our print settings. And this is the important part. So when we come in, one of the things that we'll want to do right away is select the appropriate paper. So this is that 8.5 by 11. And if you figure that one out, that is US letter. If there are other sizes that make sense for you, or if you're going to use the roll paper, you would select that. And remember, our roll paper is 24 inches. So you may have to do a custom size, like 24 by 6 inches, or in my case, again, I'm going to use just my standard US letter size. So that is the paper size, which is important. Now we're going to move to the printer options. Under printer settings, this is important. You will jump between roll paper and auto sheet feeder. And if you're using the roll of paper, you'll have to make sure to select that. In this case, I'm going to use the auto sheet feeder. And then you want to check your quality. Obviously, we're putting this on something that we want to either sell or give to somebody. So we really want to use high quality often. But if we're just testing something out to see what it looks like, we might want to mess with our quality and speed and knock those things down a little bit. But on a real quality print at the end, you want to make sure that you've got max quality, highest speed. Great. All right, so we've got that part all set. We don't really need to do too much else as far as the advanced controls go, because we've selected, in this case, our paper feed. And so now, one of the things that we also want to be mindful of is that our Photoshop manages our colors. So when we print from Photoshop, we don't want the printer handling that. We want Photoshop to handle that. And this is where the printer profile comes in. So on our existing computer, we have two printer profiles you need to check between. And it really does make quite a difference. If you are printing on something that is soft, such as a t-shirt, a flag, something that is what we would consider a textile, you'd want to select that print profile. If you're printing on something more rigid, like a keychain, a metal board, something that is a little bit stiffer as you print on it, you would choose the rigid selection, which is what I'm going to print from here. Great. So now we're ready to go, and you can make some other changes, but honestly, I would leave most of this sit as it exists today because we're ready to go at this point. I then go ahead and click Print, and we may get this warning from time to time. It's important to note you want to keep your edges clean because our computer does have margins that it prints to. So let's click Proceed in this case. And that job is going to send over to our Epson printer. Now I happen to have that not loaded at this point, but it's going to go ahead and do its printing, and away we'll go at that point. Once it is done printing, it'll kick out into the basket, and then you can proceed with the next part of your die sublimation project.